Welcome to session 5, and here we are. This is me, Amy Morgenstern, founder and CEO of Blue Stars, celebrating our 10th year anniversary. Super excited about that. And this is our wonderful, incredibly collaborative team. And feel free to get in touch with me if you're interested in working with any of our counselors. And we are accepting students. So happy to chat with you about how we work together. This is what we have today. It'll be about 30 minutes, maybe even less. So maybe there'll be a bit more time for questions. I'm going to give our rapid response update. Bunch of different news coming up. Things are developing just really on a minute-by-minute basis. Then we've got 20 minutes on summer plans and 15 minutes for Q&A. Next week, I'm going to talk about new trends in admissions. I really appreciated the question from a parent a few weeks back on whether the coronavirus is going to change the paradigm of admissions. And, you know, we're in it's such a dynamic situation right now. We're in such flux at the moment, but obviously, yes. And I already have ideas. And I said back then that I already had ideas, and those hunches are panning out. I did give a lecture in 2016 called New Trends in Admissions that talked about the shift that was taking place after the Great Recession. So I'll be talking a bit about that as well. And that will serve as a foundation for what I think top colleges are going to be looking for in the future. And I think it's really, on some level, one of the pieces that I'm really reflecting on right now is the way in which I think admissions is going to be, on some level, less merit-based and more character-based. So I'll just leave that there and develop that more for next week. So next week will be, more of an analytical discussion, a framing discussion, but these sorts of frameworks are so important for the kind of success I know you're looking for with your children. Or if you're a teen on here, I'm not sure if I saw any teens, but if you're hanging out with mom and dad together, listening, that this is a big piece of your success is understand, I guess, it's going to sound a little cynical, but it's really not. But understanding the game, understanding what is it expected, what is it play. You don't want to miss the mark. Anyway, on May 16th, I'm going to take a break. I think I'm going to take the weekend off and hang out with my dog. And then back on May 23rd with a new series on essay writing. I'm really excited about that, and I'm going to. Each video will be devoted to one essay prompt. And I'm going to be in discussion with a counselor for each one of these. So that'll be fun. Okay, it's time. Let's go forward together. Here are the topics for today: impact on current seniors, impact on current juniors. I've got some admissions wisdom, quotes from admissions directors, admissions officers. As I've been listening to webinars, I've just been pulling quotes that I thought, again, could be really framing for you. In that, and the framing is so important. And then we'll get to our shelter-in-place summer plans, green for growth in summer. All right, let's get started. Okay, impact on current seniors. Will campuses return to normal in the fall? Well, here are the options. First of all, what we've heard recently is from Janet Napolitano, UC Chancellor, and she says none of our campuses will be fully reopened. I think that what we are exploring is a mix where there will be some material that is delivered in a classroom or lab setting, and other classes continue to be online. Okay. This week as well, there was a very interesting op-ed that came out in the New York Times from the president of Brown, who is arguing that college campuses must reopen in the fall. And I've included a link to that in your resources for this week. Purdue, University of North Carolina, and Harvard plan to be open for classes. Open is in quotation marks because it's a flexible understanding. Again, a few weeks back I talked about hybrid models. So they'll be thinking about social distancing models, hybrid models, but they plan to be open. And Purdue was most emphatic. There is an article where the president of Purdue, I didn't link you to it, but you can look it up. The president of Purdue is saying that he doesn't think that coronavirus poses a danger to the students. So Purdue also, he also claims or argues that Purdue will never give up on the SAT or ACT. They will never give up on standardized testing. So a little off topic here, but I did want to note that for you because there's a flaming debate that is emerging around standardized testing in the wake of the coronavirus. But I'll talk about that next week as well. Okay. Woohoo! Online list of the colleges, excuse me. I've got an online list of the college reopening plans in the resource section for you. And that's from the Chronicle of Higher Education. It's really extensive. And my position on should you do a gap year. It's a personal decision, but many are advising against it. Unless you have, I guess, a super personal reason, an emergency type reason, if you have some pre-existing conditions that would really make it difficult for you to attend school, or you maybe had a learning difference that you couldn't work online or something like that. But the gap year is for people to do things, and if we're sheltering in place over time intermittently, people are wondering, what could you do in a gap year? So like if you could do something, if you're a coder and maybe you got an internship for a year, an online internship, and you had a pre-existing condition and you were part of a vulnerable population, I guess that would make sense for a gap year. But like, oh, college isn't going to be as great because of the coronavirus, so I want a gap year. That's where, many people are saying, I don't think so. Some other admissions officers are saying, if you matriculate in another school, like if you enroll in an online class at a community college and you matriculate, your status changes. So that's another piece for you to be thinking about as well. Impact on current juniors. Okay. We've got the new SAT dates. That's from last week. The ACT in June is still scheduled. There's a reschedule option for like a week later if things aren't working out. So you need to talk with your guidance counselor or the test center. And now you can also see the following dates for the ACT. Also, they're coming out with a remote option. So is the SAT. But note, this is interesting. So we've got some new test optional schools, USC and Claremont McKenna. However, Claremont McKenna will not accept online exams. So that's the first I've seen of a school announce that, but as Rachel Maddow says, watch this space. It could be that there's pushback from universities about online exams because of the high probability of cheating. And there's the Blue Stars policy on taking the SAT or ACT in a nutshell. Take it. If it doesn't help, don't submit it. Again, this is, I keep flagging this space as well, and here we go. I'm going to continue in the SAT, ACT space with this statement from Wellesley, because I know the question is generally, should I take it? Should I not take it? Will it count? Should I submit it? Should I not submit it? And it really is a case-by-case basis. But here is one way for you to start to think about it. So if you see what they're saying here, given the fact that many high school students were or will be unable to sit for standardized tests this spring or summer, Wellesley has temporarily suspended its requirement that first-year applicants submit SAT or ACT scores. This means testing will be optional for first-year applicants applying to the college for entry in the fall of 2021. If an applicant wishes to have their standardized test scores considered as one component of their application, we will consider those scores in a nuanced and contextual way alongside other application credentials. So notice how I bolded that. If students choose not to submit standardized test scores, we will evaluate their application in a nuanced and contextual way without test scores. Our holistic committee-based application review process gives us the flexibility to evaluate each applicant's academic and extracurricular accomplishments within individual contexts. So this is also contextual, and it really depends on whether the school is a reach school, a target school, a safety school for you. If we have a student who did great on the ACT, you got a 35, yes, totally submit that. And if you're a student who can achieve that kind of score and you're looking at that level of school, yes, you should take the ACT or SAT and you should submit it. If you're a student who's been like wildly involved in student government and you're not a great test taker, but you've done all of this great collaborative work with your peers and maybe with some sister schools, or I don't know what kind of, you've been very busy in an active way, maybe you're not going to submit it. I don't know. I would have to know you and talk to you. So, but I hope this is at least helpful so you don't feel completely lost or completely lost about maybe feeling a little lost. There are no clear guidelines, but hopefully this is helpful. So I'm ready to move on to admissions wisdom. And this is from the Vice Provost of Admissions and Financial Aid from Washington University. Character is becoming more important in the admissions process. And I do want to say that back in 2016, when I was giving this lecture on new trends, I was saying the same thing, and I have a lot of evidence and examples to show you this transformation that really started happening around 2011, 2012, 2013, when the admissions community started reevaluating what they were asking teens to be and do when students were aspiring to apply for great schools. So for example, if the messaging to teens was that, oh, leadership, 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 you have to be at the front of the class. Well, what kind of, that sort of meant to a lot of people that they were encouraging teens to be really individualistic. And then in the wake of the Great Recession, that really wasn't working anymore. And they started reevaluating what kinds of qualities do we want to really promote in applicants that we're looking for. So anyway, I just thought this would be a nice, clear way to frame things. Character is becoming more important. And you'll see this come to bear in the summer ideas. Okay. I thought this was a cool one. This is from a webinar that I attended a few weeks back on showing demonstrated interest in college. Okay, and what does it mean to show demonstrated interest in college? What is that thing? What does that mean? Well, when you or your teen applies to college, often, not with UC, but often with the private schools, you'll get a question that's like, why do you want to come to our school? How will you use our resources? What is motivating you to apply to our school? And most teens will say, this is a great renowned college, I would be privileged, all of this sort of empty flattery. And in the age of information, everything can be so easily accessed. That's just not an adequate answer. And so this is from Jim Bach, Vice President and Dean of Admissions at Swarthmore. Do you get us? Are you going to use the resources in the best way, better than your competition? So I haven't thought about doing a webinar on why essays, but we could totally do that too. There really is a process to it. And I think it's a big reason. It's a reason why our students, I think, have an edge, because we train them to very seriously learn about the school. And then I always use the like the metaphor of the weave, and then sort of weave themselves into the school, or weave the school's offerings into their aspirations and experience. So everything is a process when it comes to admissions, when it comes to this sort of high stakes, high performance activity. I absolutely love this one, and this is from a while back, but I have a treasure chest of admissions wisdom. I wanted to share this one. Leadership doesn't always come with a title, right? Giselle Martin, Director of Recruitment and Talent at Emory University. So, and the way we talk about leadership often is through creativity, and often I define creativity in terms of initiative, right? When you create something, it's new, right? When you initiate, you do something new. And you can do something new in your household, you can do something new in your club, in your community. There's so many ways to do that. And often our quiet leaders, they're the ones who do really, really well in admissions. Okay, so that's the wisdom for you, I think. Yeah, that's the wisdom for you this week. So let's get into how to plan a social distance summer. And so the way we do things at Blue Stars, and it's not just summers, it's lives, it's teen lives, but it's the art of juggling, it's the art of holding up all those, balls up in the air. And it's just a sign of the times. It's different when, parents my age, some parents maybe a bit younger than me, we didn't have to multitask in this high performance way to get into these great schools, but the causes and conditions are the same, or the causes and conditions have changed. And so we've got to roll with the times. So here we are. So your basic goals for an admissions boosting summer is you'll want to demonstrate interest in potential majors. You want to show commitment to community service. You want to show that you've got curiosities and activities outside of your major. You're not just like a single focused sort of person. And you want to activate those 7 C's, right? Collaboration, commitment, character, curiosity, creativity, challenge, and my favorite, cultural intelligence, okay? And so you see, if you want to know what leadership is, it is the 7 C's. It's this plurality of traits that, I think I quoted Aristotle, I think in my last email. Some of you might know that I'm a scholar in ancient Greek philosophy. I'm very influenced by Aristotle's ethics. And a lot of the ways in which I help students, my methodology is actually informed a lot by Aristotle and his ethical theory and his belief in the power of habituation. So, okay. Anyway, we've got some really cool profiles coming up that I'm about to share with you. I do want you to know that we have maybe a few items in there that some of our current students are involved in, but no one of these students is one of our students. These are all makeup students, okay? So I just wanted to, to preserve privacy and just to let you know, this is just a montage of students that we've sort of made up. First, I want you to notice that there's a part 1, which means there's a part 2, okay? So thinking through holding all those balls up in the air, we want, students to really show themselves as these, multidimensional creatures that they are, and every human is. So this student, this is a rising 12th grader. This student is involved in computer science, biology, and music. So this person got into Cosmos. Cosmos was canceled. So this person, they went on to School Mentor and found a research project. So School Mentor is a website where you can plug in, you can create a profile as a student and then start looking for research projects and apply to them and see if you can participate in them. And this kind of project can become a science fair worthy submission. So they're also going to do submission work, do all the necessary write-ups and presentations and get it ready for the deadlines in the fall. And we have a link as well to how to get your project ready for a science fair. This person's also going to be doing USICO prep. Okay, they've achieved the silver level and will be doing self-paced practice to reach gold, hopefully to reach gold in the fall or winter. They're volunteering for Street Code, and Street Code, that's something local. So if you're not local to the Bay Area, you can find another kind of coding place that serves underserved communities. This place empowers communities with color, with the skills, mindsets, and networks to use tech and innovation to fulfill their potential. And Street Code has moved the classes online. And I know this, we do have one student who's working here on Street Code, maybe two, and they're really enjoying it. And this is something, this person started early on. So this is, Street Code will be showing commitment in their application. So you see there's a variety of activities connected to computer science, to biology, computational biology, volunteering. Here's part two. This person is also developing a biology in your backyard course through the Passion Project. And the Passion Project is a website where teens and young adults can create classes for younger students. So there's another, little passion project going on here to show interest in subject matter, but also awareness of surroundings, that young kids might need instruction, that parents might need a break from their kids. This person is a musician, so is volunteering and teaching underserved students through quarantines. This person still needs to take the test in the fall because of what's going on in the spring. So they're also involved in SAT or ACT prep. They're doing mind expansion activities through critical reading, viewing, listening in spheres of interest. So that might be TED Talks, that might be it might be Reddit, could be Quora, it could be paying attention to the latest data on the pandemic, all sorts of different things that shows the student to really be aware of their surroundings. And this student, because they're a rising 12th grader, they're working on their essay free writes, and the school list at this point would already be set. So that's a rising 12th grader, computer science, biology, and music. And so you see how we've got a lot of balls up in the air, and that's why goal setting, time management, and we have exercises for that in the free college planning workbook. So if you're wondering, oh my goodness, how is my child going to do all of those things? We do have some of those teaching tools in the workbook that you can check out. And now we have a rising 11th grader who's interested in business, data science, and gardening, part 1. So this student combined her interest in business and gardening and worked to start a small business over the summer. She's creating a shelter-in-place gardening kit while also building and tending to her own pollinator-friendly garden. And I've linked you to all of these resources. So there's a blog post by, I think she's a junior at UC Davis, on building a pollinator-friendly garden. It's absolutely adorable. It's really, it's wonderful. So in addition to her kits, she's also offering 30-minute online tutorials for people interested in learning more about gardening. And you can see an article on that as well. And now for part 2, she's continuing her academic studies. So she's showing that demonstrated interest in her major. So she's doing an online course, an edX course in entrepreneurship and emerging economies. And she's also exploring her options for an at-home science experiment working with data. And we have a link to you in the resources as well for online, it's an online website with lots of ideas for science projects. She's also studying for the SAT and ACT so she can take it in the fall or the spring. And she's also working on her mind expansion activities through critical reading, viewing, and listening in her spheres of interest. A lot of the work we do with students is we also try to help them find role models. And that's a really great way for a student to show a college what they want to be like without having to say, I want this particular career. Because you don't really need to claim a career to get into a good college. You need to really give a vision of this cool adult you're going to be. So a lot of the mind expansion type of work tends to be, finding role models who have done or are doing really cool things in the areas that a teen is interested in already, or maybe new areas. Ew. Rising 10th grader, part 1, debate, environment, and cooking. So this student stays up to date on environmental news and found creative ways to get involved with the issues that she cares about. She utilized resources from organizations like Earth Justice and Earth Day Network. She's using the Earth Justice Action Alerts and the Action Center. She's also using the Earth Day Network Actions and Toolkit. And she used that to develop her own independent ventures. She downloaded the Earth Justice and Earth Day Network toolkits and organized an online discussion group with friends and family. And then to build on ideas that came out of her discussion group, she's decided to focus on sustainability during shelter in place, since single-use plastic and plastic pollution has increased due to safety concerns. So what she's done is she's created a YouTube channel focused on ways to live sustainably during coronavirus with weekly videos on specific actions people could take around composting, solar energy, and even challenges like reading instead of streaming to encourage less carbon footprint. Okay, you can tell a counselor wrote that one. But it's a great idea. And some students actually do really love paper books. Moving on. In order to learn more about debate, she's taking an online course on critical thinking, arguments, and fallacies through the Khan Academy, the critical thinking course. She's pursuing her non-academic interest in cooking by organizing a cooking challenge. She's using her YouTube sustainability project and her cooking challenge as a launch pad, and she's organizing a fundraiser for a local food bank. And then she's also doing her mind expansion activities through critical reading, viewing, listening in her spheres of interest. So we do have students who are very, very active and really want to do and give and learn and challenge themselves. And a student doing this in 10th grade, I mean, you can only imagine what they'll be doing, as a rising 11th grader, then as a rising 12th grader. Starting now is really, again, I think, the Aristotle I quote was, the beginning is the half done or something like that. But this is, when we can get our rising 10th graders to fill their summer in this way, we know this student is on to great things. We know that's gonna happen. Okay, so as you can see, I have a ton of resources for you, and I will follow up in an email to you. There's Girls Who Code, Google Arts and Culture. There's ID Tech virtual tech camps, science fair. There's a few, these are the art recreation. The next three, I think they might all be on Twitter, where people are imitating great works of arts and taking photos. That's really fun. The Quarantunes, Teen Give, even more here, School Mentor, Street Code, Passion Project, the Entrepreneurship course, the Quarantine Project on the Pollinator Friendly Garden, at-home science experiments, the list of colleges, their plans for reopening, and the list of colleges accepting what are now, it's being called the AP Lite. So still take it, because the AP exam really has more to do with credits accepted. It really doesn't have much to do with the competitiveness of your profile. Okay. So that's what I have for you guys. And I'm gonna stop sharing. And why don't you take a moment and think through what questions you have. And I will just hang here. Say hi to people. I kept it to almost 30 minutes. That wasn't too bad. I know last week was a bit long, but Sally, she is great. She is great, and she has great stories. So it was a treat. That was a real treat. I'm glad you're finding it informative. Also want to remind you too, in the college planning workbook, the last chapter on timelining, that's a way to capture just, the milestones, the big milestones for each month. And if you can get your child to do that, that it's really helpful. And, I'll just talk while you're gathering your thoughts. On timelining and goal setting and time management in general, students, we know teens resist it. I mean, most adults resist it. And I think we have to be, I think this is, again, I use habituation as a really, through my studies of Aristotle, as a really important principle in the work that we do. And so it's very interesting phenomenon that teens resisted at first. It can take forever to get a teen to get the wall calendar. It could take 6 months for us to convince a teen to get a wall calendar. Once they do it and they put the stuff up on the calendar, that is personal growth, right there. Because it's they feel the relief. It just washes over their system. Now, maybe they fall off the wagon again, but then it won't take us 6 months. It'll take us a month or a week to get the teen back into the calendar. So, and sometimes it is, my job is to I don't know, the ice bucket effect with a teen, yep, here's what a really organized schedule looks like. Yours does not yet look like that. And they feel a little confronted by me. Sometimes I'm give it a try. And if you just push them through that barrier, there is a sense of relief and calm. So I just maybe, as I was just musing while you guys are gathering your thoughts, just share a little bit of insight, because I know if you're parents on this call, you're here because you really want to help your children. And these are the kinds of things we talk about in our private sessions too. So, okay, I'm going to grab a drink and read some questions. This is a very good, let me go up. I'm going to go back to the one on mind expansion and remind me if I've forgotten. But I have a question. If your school has switched to credit, no credit, Do colleges view the AP test results as a proxy for second semester grades? That is, do AP test results become more important? I can shoot that question over into another webinar this week, and Helen, I know, is on this call. I'm supposed to reclaim host. 1 second, let me just do that. And she'll remind me to do that. But I'm going to guess and say the answer is no, because I think people are very nervous about the cheating prospects in online exams. Like, people are really skeptical about how quickly this all came together. So they're going to be looking at the senior grades. And I know this gets back to the EAED. I can't get into that right now. In a few weeks, I will not forget the EAED, because I just don't think admissions offices are giving clear messages yet about that. I think, because, and this is a bit of the background of my musings, is I think that, so ED is very important for colleges for tuition and revenue. So I don't think they want to give that up. But I don't think they have a clear story as to how they're going to evaluate applicants. So stay tuned. But I do not think that the AP test will become more important. No. Projects and examples of an 11th grader who wants to pursue computer science. Well, I did mention a bunch of those with the computer, the computer science, and I think it was computational biology. But I think the best thing would be to start to go onto these websites and see the examples. They're really, they're right there. There are a ton of different examples that you can sign up for, and they might be with universities, they might be with startups. We've had students work with a startup that has created portable air purifiers and geared toward children in China originally, and they've done, deep internship work with this startup. So things like that. A lot of these opportunities will, come through contacts, come through creative thinking. There are also, well, scratch that. I'm thinking about something non-coronavirus. But we can also discuss this offline. So the person who's asking me this question. How do colleges view a high school that switches to college, no college with option 4 grades? How do they view students that took the credit path through the grades path? I'm not sure that they know yet. As you saw from the Wellesley statement, they keep saying that everything will be contextual. One thing I have not yet said, I did not include this in my presentation this week, is that the additional information section of every application is your friend. So everything really just needs to be explained in additional information. Like, I expect not every student includes additional information in the past, but I expect that this is going to be a very important space going forward. So that's one way in which the paradigm is shifting in additional information. So I have an opportunity to pose these questions to someone who runs a webinar with actual admissions officers. So I will pose those questions and get back to you on the answers. I don't know. It's going to be all contextual. We have students who were doing really well in 10th grade, second semester, 10th grade, and then it went pass fail. Also in 11th grade, it went pass fail. And it's like the balloon burst, It's terrible. And we need to talk about that in additional information. That's, it's just a new system that we have to all sort of create together as we're going through this. So, but I will get you more information on that. Other questions? Did it make sense having like a variety of different things going on, but also things that would show like curiosity, commitment, all those different qualities? Talk more about mind expansion, right? Yeah. Yeah, okay, I'll give an example of a former student from a while back, Matt, who, I've got a blog post with Matt. Matt has advice to high school students based on his college experience. He's a good friend of Blue Stars. When I first started working with Matt, and I do this with all of my students, you know, I had them, at the time, was more reading. So I would have them read things that they would not get in high school. And at the time, the Ferguson riots were in the news. And he chose to read an article on how the federal government had sold a lot of military equipment to local or county police, police resources, and the way in which that was being like utilized on the people. And he just had never thought of society that way before. He'd never thought like, oh, wow, there's something going on connected to race, connected to a poor community. And he started writing about it, started thinking about it. He was also like into hip hop culture, and he wasn't really into sneaker culture. So it just reframed all the other things that he was involved in, and he could hear those voices like so much better. And then what I had him do was I had him apply to an internship at the Academy of Sciences here in San Francisco. And it was like a media internship. And he and his fellow interns were writing like blog posts that were actually posted on like KQED's site, on NPR's site, about environmentalism. And they were getting all of these, very climate denial, very aggressive climate denial responses. And he was really, at first it was very surprising, but because he had sort of done this other work with me on Ferguson, when he saw this other side, sort of, again, like a middle-class guy, sort of starting to learn that there are worlds beyond, this lovely bubble that we've created for ourselves in Silicon Valley. We are so blessed. We are so privileged, And so he became a stronger and wiser person as a result of these experiences that were, so different from your typical club activities. So when he applied for college, his essays were so rich, they were so full of personality, because not only did he know more about the world, but he had tangled with the world. He'd been a little tested, through the internship. I'll give you another one. Let's see. A student who had started in 9th grade. She pre-med student, and she wanted to collect free medical equipment and donate them to free clinics in her neighborhood. So at the same time she was doing that, we were giving her different kinds of material talking about income inequality and disparity in our culture. And she wound up, writing these incredibly beautiful essays, dealing with, I just drive a mile away from my home, And life is so different for these other people. And she could talk about it from her personal experience. She could talk about it through some of the writings she had read. That student was admitted to Stanford and Columbia with a research scholarship. So that's some of the, if I have a student who's interested in fashion, that's another one, for example, we will start thinking about fashion and the environment. We will start thinking about TED Talks or blog posts or websites dealing with fast fashion, which has been critiqued in the last decade. So when students talk about their aspirations in their college applications, I'm just going to come out and say this. Like, it's not cool to say, I want a house and a car and a family and my piece of the pie. No, that's 20th century. Okay, that's not that's not going to meet the mindset of an admissions reader, and that's why we'll talk about that. This is a great way to sort of segue to the end of today's session, and segue to the next session. So, you want your aspirations as an applicant to, like, yes, I want to become a lawyer. Yes, I want to become a doctor. No one's saying you shouldn't be ambitious, but your ambitions shouldn't stop with you to be successful in today's, admissions journey. If you're not familiar where you can get the college planning workbook, you can find it on the website, actually just right on the homepage in the upper left corner. You can sign up for it there. And I think that's it. I think that's it for now. And I'm excited to see you next week and to talk to you in, from a larger framework about admissions. So want to wish you a great rest of the weekend. I hope this was very helpful. Thank you for coming.